We are live from digital address GA099253 in Kokomemle, Accra, on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 144. A good morning to everybody right there. The show is Joy News Interactive with me, Selinam Ampo, and our social media handles for Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram is Joy News on TV. Today, the Adenta Medina footbridge seems to be the talk of social media. Earlier this week, Nancy Emefat Dradosi visited the area and filed a report on the completion of one of the footbridge projects. Some pedestrians have started using the footbridge to cross over the highway. Let's take a look at that report.
Residents of Adenta protesting in November last year after a student of the West Africa Senior High School was knocked down. Their anger stemmed from many other pedestrian knockdowns on that stretch. The protest yielded the necessary results. Finally, government gave a commitment that the footbridges would be fixed by April this year. On the last day of April, only one out of the 6 footbridges had been completed and opened for use. The footbridges at Firestone, Zongo Junction, Redco, SDA and Adenta Junction were still under construction. Residents living at Rich Junction were elated. Jifa Anane says in the past he was never at ease whenever his family members stepped out.
It came at the right time because some of us, moving up and down, it's problematic. So actually I started using it yesterday and it's quite good because at least I get to cross easily. And my parents who are also around get to cross it at least now. Once they are going to town, I have the feeling that they are safe, they will return home safely. And it's good, it's okay.
I met Believe Dovlo carrying a sack of cassava on her head. She was excited about the bridge. I am very excited about the bridge, but because I'm carrying this heavy load, my thighs hurt because the walkway is very long. Godfred Obeng is not too happy with the work done by engineers.
For this bridge, I will really praise the government for doing this. But my disappointment is on the engineering side. Seriously, they are doing this thing to help the disabled. But how can you help a disabled with this thing? Imagine somebody climbing about 200 meters, using crutches to climb these 200 meters. Even for the funny thing is, this side is even longer than, when you calculate, it's twice the overhead. So both sides, you are just crossing the road 5 times for crossing one bridge.
But the engineer Enoch Enyimedu says the structure was designed to best suit persons with disability.
The reason for this is that, this bridge is disabled friendly, right? And you realize that for them, most of them, they use wheelchairs and some use the walking sticks and all. If we are supposed to make this shorter, that means we are going to have a very steep ramp. That would be very difficult for them to access the footbridge and cross to the other side.
The footbridge, when completed, will halt the practice of pedestrians competing with speeding vehicles. The question then is, when will the 5 be finally completed?
Well, you heard the report right there, but some Ghanaians on social media have expressed their dissatisfaction over the newly constructed Adenta Medina footbridge, which has opened to pedestrians this week. And they have issues with the design, saying it's too uninspiring and too long. We'll be speaking to Engineer Jack Asare Awuku, a transportation engineer, via Skype. Hello, engineer.
Hello.
How are you doing this morning?
Fine, thank you. And you?
I'm great. From an expert point of view, is there anything wrong with this footbridge?
I think from the expert point of view, you might have to look at it in 2 different scopes with respect to the functionality and then with respect to the aesthetic view.
Okay.
When you look at the functionality, I don't think there is any problem with it. I don't have the details of the drawing, but when you look at the ramps and then the slopes they have in there, in order to make it fit for the standard and based on the standards and the guidelines, I believe that functionality, everything is okay. People might raise issues on the aesthetics and then the social acceptance and all that, but I think they were working within a constraint with respect to space and then with respect to allowances to work and then encroachment and all that. So personally, from the engineering point of view, in terms of functionality, I don't really think there's any problem with the design.
But we see that on social media, there are a number of people condemning the design. Are you saying they don't have valid concerns?
I want to believe so, because I think whatever design that is done based from the engineering perspective has to have a baseline. There are standards and guidelines that are used for the designs that are being done. And I want to believe that these footbridges have been designed based on this start line. I haven't really looked into the Disability Act of Ghana, but standards like the ADA standard, like the Americans with Disability Standard, and then the guidelines that they use, there are minimum slopes you can do. You can't do a slope of more than 8% or 8.33 or 1 in 12, because once you do that, you make it very unfriendly for disabled people to walk, very unfriendly for people, older people, and mostly the vulnerable people to access these ramps and things like that. And I want to believe that all those decisions actually necessitated for the design of the ramps, the elevations, and then the vertical and then the horizontal alignment.
For those who
you might have concern about, yeah.
For those who say have issues with the length of the footbridge.
Yeah, so I think the length is actually based on this whole ramp thing we are talking about, and then the grade of the ramp. What is the maximum slope for a ramp we are looking at is 1 in 12. A layman understanding of 1 in 12 is every 12 meter you walk in the horizontal direction, you need to climb 1 meter. So just to have that perspective, if I am walking 12 meters, I need to climb 1 meter.
Okay.
And you have a clearance of the vertical clearance of the whole footbridge being about 5 meters or 5.5. So estimating that length into the horizontal alignment, it means you actually need a very long distance to be able to climb up there. And if you want to make it very long, you might end up, there's a possibility of entering into other intersections next to where the footbridge is, or there's a possibility of walking very long distance in the horizontal, in the lateral direction before you turn and climb. So I'm sure it's actually an aesthetic issue. It's really an aesthetic issue because of the space constraint they had around the place. And then all that necessitated some of these things. But so in terms of engineering, from the engineering point of view, in terms of functionality, whether the designs are easily accessible for people to cross and move about, there's no defect with the design. The problem might be, could they have done anything to soften or make it fit into the environment very well? Were there anything? Probably you can look at the other part of the engineering, that is the social side, where I was talking about the aesthetic. Does it really fit into the terrain? Does it fit into the environment? Could they have used materials?
Do you think it fits into the terrain?
Personally, I think concrete looks too rigid. Concrete looks a bit rigid for the terrain, because this is an open area. You have concrete. Maybe there can be some trees or some grassing around also, expected to soften that view and that impression the whole design creates on your mind when you try to walk around. There could be certain things that can be placed in to just augment the beauty and then lift up the social. So you don't have that feel of walking so much. And I think one of the reasons why they are complaining so much is maybe the width. Because if you are climbing a slope and then you have a very short width, you really have that feel that I am being constrained, and then you can really psychologically have a feel that this is very steep. But once you have a very large width, you don't really have that psychological effect on you that I am really climbing the step. But it all boils down to the space constraint they have, and then the space limit they have to work.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Engineer Jack Asaria-Wuku. Thank you very much for that enlightenment. Well, let's hop on to social media to find out what people have been saying about these footbridges. And we have Felix Kwache Ofosu, who says, proposed name for Medina footbridge is JB Dankwa Medina Dental Health and Fitness Walkway. And Emmanuel Mumuni tweets multi-purpose footbridge now open along the Medina Adenta Road. The bridge doubles as a roadside gym facility for the people. How convenient. And Theo Echampong's comment on Facebook, he says, on footbridges, Accra, Ghana versus Dundee, Scotland. Okay, so he says the only decent footbridge in Accra is probably the one at Spanner Junction. I don't understand why we build these many massive structures with no soul in them. Architecture and design goes on and on and on. So he shows us an image of a bridge in Scotland. And Wisdom says the Adenta Medina footbridges are perfect for training. You drive to Ayimenta, park your car and climb the hill every Saturday, wasting fuel and creating unnecessary risks to the drivers. Government, in its wisdom, decides to bring this exercise closer to your doorstep. And you are complaining. He goes on, he says, your daily exercise is important to the government. Don't wait till Saturday to climb the hill. Just get to the nearest bridge at Medina or Adenta early in the morning and voila, you are good to go. Congratulations to the designer, engineers and the government. Think positive. Your health matters to government. And Helicopter Man says, Adenta simply asks for a footbridge, not a canopy walk leading to the bridge. This architectural design is like a punishment for their demonstration. Hashtag, but it's better than nothing. And NYB says, Adenta footbridge startup pack. Because it's an image of 3 handkerchiefs, some boots and Rush energy drink. And Yaira says some Okada drivers are planning to operate on the Adenta footbridge. According to them, they will charge anyone who wants to use their service 1 cedi to help drive them to the other end of the bridge. In the meantime, government is saying the total cost for the project is 10 million. Junior says, laughing my LMAO, he says this footbridge is just punishment to the people of Adenta for the many demonstrations. Today marks World Press Freedom Day. Around the world, we are celebrating the works and efforts of journalists. The theme for the day is Media for Democracy, Journalism and Elections in Times of Disinformation. The UN General Secretary, Antonio Guterres, has some words to share with the world on World Press Freedom Day.
Press is essential for peace, justice, sustainable development and human rights. No democracy is complete without access to transparent and reliable information. It is the cornerstone for building fair and impartial institutions, holding leaders accountable and speaking truth to power. And this is especially true during election seasons, the focus of this year's World Press Freedom Day. Facts, not falsehoods, should guide people as they choose their representatives. Yet, while technology has transformed the ways in which we receive and share information, sometimes it is used to mislead public opinion or to fuel violence and hatred. Civic space has been shrinking worldwide at an alarming rate. And with anti-media rhetoric on the rise, so too are violence and harassment against journalists, including women. I am deeply troubled by the growing number of attacks and the culture of impunity. According to UNESCO, almost 100 journalists were killed in 2018. Hundreds are imprisoned. And when media workers are targeted, societies as a whole pay a price. On World Press Freedom Day, I call on all to defend the rights of journalists whose efforts help us to build a better world for all. Thank you.
Well, on the streets, we asked you, what do you think about how the media has conducted itself as the fourth arm of government, and what could we do to improve our democracy? Let's listen to what people had to say on the streets.
The fact that we keep watch of activities, the fact that we are able to report the good and the bad aspect of the society as a whole, and not in terms of government, they say media, radio, TV get results. And for some time now, it hasn't been good, it hasn't been so good, but we are trying as a media.
What do you expect the media to do in order to make our democracy better?
I think in the aspect of politics, the media shouldn't just report. Media should make sure you go deep down to the extent that we get results. Let's not report the issues, discuss the issues on our radios, on our morning shows, and leave it like that. Just as the way it's been. It's been a talk shop over the period.
Okay, well, they should seek more of the truth. The truth, yeah. They should sell more of the truth. Delve deep into what the relevant matters that the populace would like to know, and then also be informed so that they can also inform us, the individuals who do not have much of the strength to reach out to this information that they get.
Right. What would we have done as a country without the media?
Well, even as they are here, we're still not even getting much. So if they are not, I would say that it would have been very bad. It would have been very bad. We are looking at the illiteracy rate in Ghana and even Africa as a whole. If the media was not there, I think most of it would have been deceived in a way.
Well, if I should say, there's an influx of information now to the public, so probably I think the media is doing very well to actually promote information and make information to us very timely. I think it's quite okay.
Well, on social media, many social media users had this to say about World Press Freedom Day. And we start with a tweet from former President John Dramani Mahama, who says, "I encourage the Ghana Journalists Association, media men and women, and bloggers to consider deeply and discuss how to remain relevant to society within the framework of the 2019 theme, Media for Democracy, Journalism and Elections in Times of Disinformation. Hashtag World Press Freedom Day." He continues to tweet, "As being asked by UNESCO, how can journalism rise above emotional content and fake news during an election? What should be done to counter speeches demeaning journalists? To what extent should electoral regulations be applied to the internet?" Hashtag World Press Freedom Day. And another tweet, he says, "The reaction of government to the work of journalists and the impact of inaccurate news reports by journalists are issues that have dominated journalism over the last few years. This year's global theme for hashtag World Press Freedom Day couldn't have been more appropriate." Nat Tete says, "Just something to ponder over on hashtag World Press Freedom Day. Journalists deserve better." Shows an image, attacks on the press in 2018, 88, and 250 journalists have been imprisoned, 61 missing. The truth belongs to all of us. Protect our journalists in 2019. And Antonio Guterres tweets, "No democracy is complete without access to transparent and reliable information." On hashtag World Press Freedom Day, we must all defend the rights of journalists whose efforts help us build a better world for all. And Javi Ruiz says, "Today is hashtag World Press Freedom Day and things don't look too bright on that map. Free press is a cornerstone of democracy, and it is threatened not only by authoritarian governments but also by ownership concentration." Let's take a short breather, and when we are back, we have most watched videos. Welcome back from that short break. You're still watching Joy News Interactive with me, Selina Ampo. It's time for us to talk about our most watched videos of the week. For our first most watched video of the week is a report by Komla Adom about the Adome Bridge. The latest development is that if you want to take a picture on that bridge, you'll be charged a fee of 2 Ghana Cedi. The video had 22,000 views, 365 reactions, 276 comments, and 310 shares. Well, at the number 2 spot is a video which had 11,000 views, 178 reactions, 183 comments, 54 shares, and it is the video of President Akufo-Addo breaking his silence on recent cases of kidnapping in the country.
Of kidnappings, which we have not known. Our brothers and sisters in Nigeria have known it, but we have not known it in this country, and we need to do something about it to make sure that it doesn't become a feature of our society. I am very, very, very determined on the issue, and decisions are being taken as we speak that will be a clear manifestation of the determination I have to deal with this matter. Yes.
At our number 3 spot is a video which had 9.7 thousand views, 146 reactions, 169 comments, and 55 shares. It is a video report on graffitis beautifying the streets of Tudu.
Driving through the fairly clean city of Accra, my attention is drawn to this picturesque wall in the heart of Accra, Tudu specifically. Onlookers, traders and hawkers are mesmerized by the beautiful artwork. The artwork depicts a typical busy scene of Accra. Like magnet, many people are drawn to the walls.
Like the motif of the pictures here, the motif, patterns and everything, the paints and stuff, so I just like it.
What's particular about this drew your attention to it?
It's like being in a market, looking at the picture is describing how the Mokola market, and officially we are here. So that's how the thing is going like.
Yeah, I'm actually a big fan of graffitis, this kind of artistic paintings. So when I saw it, I was like, I want to really have memories when I go home so that I can actually show it to someone about how nice it is.
Well, that's all we have for you on our most watched videos, but we can't leave the show without the video of the day. I ask you, what would you do if this happened to a relative of yours? Well, that is a conversation for another time. The show has been JoyNews Interactive with me, Selina Ampo. Do enjoy the rest of your weekend.